Have you found yourself wondering, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Recognizing the stranger in the mirror is the book for you. It helps us to unravel the mystery of who you really are, revealing your life's passion and why you should unveil the real you to the world. We need you. You are valuable and necessary for those who are connected to you. Do not be afraid to peek in and discover all your gifts and talents to share. It's real freedom when we reveal our authenticity. Stacey Bullock is a two-time best-selling author, transformational speaker, and host of Tools for Everyday Living TV show. She is committed to igniting resilience, personal transformation, and building life skills of her audiences and clients. The author of 2 previously written self-help books, Beaten Oil and Regain Power Through Resilience. Don't let your brain go numb. Stacey imparts lessons that teaches readers to utilize their light as a guide for others and discovering inner strength and resiliency to bounce back when life throws curveballs. Stacey may be reached for speaking engagements, leadership and employee training, and life skills coaching via her email at stacy@powerandresilience.com.
Great day, beautiful souls. How are you all doing out there on this wonderful day? I don't know about you, but I feel excited. And I feel excited because I know that we have another wonderful show for you. You are going to gain insight on one of my favorite topics, education, and why and how. And yes, we have someone who is doing consulting in education. I'm pausing because I don't want to give away everything. I want us to be excited when our guest comes on. He is phenomenal. I met him at the Pink Carpet 10-year anniversary celebration and heard him speak and give us insight as to his book and his business. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I want to talk to us just a little bit about education. What was the first thing that popped in your head? Probably a school building, right? When we think of education, we think of teachers, and we think of blackboards and chalkboards. I don't think, do they have chalkboards anymore? I might need to go to somebody's classroom to see if they still have chalkboards, because technology just comes in and takes away things that give us, and I'm digressing a little bit, but chalkboards would give us this creative outlet, because you get to go up there and teacher call on you, and you get to write out what it is that you see on the inside. And my guest and I are actually having just a little brief discussion about the mind and the process that it takes in its creativity, in its understanding of what's being taught. But for education purposes, we need to understand that we might have missed it a little bit on this process. And I hope today that we'll help somebody get to some clarity as to how now, what next steps they might need to take to ensure that they or their children are getting what is the right education for growth. Yeah, for growth. That's why education is necessary, for us to grow and expand. And specifically, the word education in the Latin, it comes from a Latin word, educator, meaning to bring forth, to bring out, to help someone bring to the forefront their God-given talent. Wow. It didn't necessarily say to implant or impart something into someone. It means to bring out of someone. And everybody can't do that. So I'm glad we have our guests here today. But just one last thing on this education thing. We have to have the ability to help people believe that they have something to bring forth. Yeah, that's why we are here today on Tools for Everyday Living. Because when we're here, we gain tools and knowledge and understanding and enlightenment about the human tools that we need to continue to bring forth our God given gift. And I'm just going to go right ahead and introduce my guest. His name is Ron Angeletti. And welcome to Tools for Everyday Living.
Hello, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. I'm supposed to get to you during the event
Hmm.
of the 10. However, as both of us know, there was, some competing competing things that, may not have made for the best interview. And I wanted to make sure, and I'm sure that Lakeisha and LaShawn and Lachey's, hi, we're giving them a shout out. They couldn't make it here with us today, but I'm sure that they will wanted to make sure that everybody had the best experience. So I said, you know what? Let's just have the honorees, the participants on the
Hmm.
show, Tools for Everyday Living, and
Awesome.
give you, yeah, to give you the opportunity to freely tell us who you are, freely tell us what you do, why you do it, how you got into it. I mentioned that you're an education consultant, excuse me. You
Hmm.
are the CEO of Teach Another Inc. And that, to me, I just said, wow, that encompasses so much. And I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna let you tell us, who is Ron Gilletti
Hmm.
as a man, and also who are you as the CEO of Teach Another Inc.
Yeah. So thanks again. And before I even get into myself, I just want to echo what you said. That the Pink Carpet event was a phenomenal event. That Keisha and Sean put on. I know a lot of effort and a lot of even probably frustration leading up to it, trying to get that type of event together. But it was still it was lightning in a bottle, so to speak, right? Something that happened
Mm.
there that you wish you can bottle up, basically. I mean, you wish you can take when it bottle and just get it to go that way. Because I say that to say that it was very organic in a way. A lot of the discussion, even though it was focused discussions, but with
Mhm.
everyone that participated, I think they was able to lend a lot of insight, and hopefully that everyone that was there participated left inspired, ready to really run their race to the fullest. So I just want to give them a shout out before I get into myself. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you introduced, my name is Ron Angeletti. I am I'm an education consultant, and simply just taking my experiences, not just my experience as an educator, but also my life experiences. So as a consultant, that allows me to merge my humble beginnings, my upbringing, and everything that I experienced with the adversity I faced, and then in moving into the professional realm, from juvenile probation to education, and just really just taking all of those where they intersect, and just finding a way to help those that I believe that need it most. Uh, Again, a lot of my time as an educator was spent working with the actual youth. As a consultant, I get to work with those that work with the youth. So in essence, I get to reach more youth that I may never physically get a chance to meet or talk to, but I love the opportunity to impact those that will have the hands-on experience with those, the boots on the ground, so to speak. And so as a consultant, again, it's I'm not I specialize in behavior support services and educational support for those that are at risk, right? And whether we talking socially or academically at risk. And so as a consultant, it gives me an opportunity to really reflect on what I feel that I may have needed as a, as a young student, and as I matriculated through school, as well as my experiences as an educator, what I was able to observe, students, right? And things that I think that if administrators only knew, if teachers, you know, not allow the day-to-day to blur their vision, so to speak, or to get in the way of the compassion, right? Don't forget, lead with compassion. And I believe, because you can take a student that is at risk. When I say at risk, I mean whether it's socially or academically, they'll perform, for someone that they believe really have a genuine interest in them, right? There's a saying that says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So, I've experienced that as a student as well as an educator. You could take a student who would be considered a reluctant learner, and they would perform for you like not even across the hall. There's another teacher there, and the teacher will come in and say, how do you get, such and such to one, stay in their seat, or to really get work done? And that goes back to the compassion. We lead with compassion. You'll be surprised what you can get those reluctant learners to at least try. It's not even about whether or not they're making A's or B's. It's about if you can get them to make an effort, and then perhaps you can impart, you can kind of scaffold, some of those deficiencies, kind of build them up to get them to where you need them. But again, it goes back to compassion. So everything I do is really lit with compassion. I just take my, of course, my experience, my education, my training, but I don't neglect my experience, my life experiences. So that's what keep me grounded. And I know you have questions. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. So just, so I hope I get an introduction to give you some insight into who I am and why I do what I do.
Yes, absolutely. And you were talking, and I love the the part where you lead from. A lot of people miss that point of compassion. And that's where I mean, as far as the education of a human being, do we teach compassion? I don't know if I teach myself and talk to people a lot. And I always say that I can't pour compassion in you, but I can give you some really good reasons why you should have it.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
And if you were training teachers right now, how would you motivate them to want to lead with compassion?
So when you think of education in as it stands today, right? It's data driven, right? A lot of data, right? And so you have mandates that's handed down, so to speak, right? It's education, unfortunately, is like a top down model, right? Someone is making decisions in some legislative sessions and in boardrooms, and then they pass it down to the boots on the ground, the teachers, and those that are actually in the trenches, so to speak, in the classrooms, in the schools. And sometimes the theory and practice don't perfectly intersect. It don't align because sometimes those decision makers are not taking into consideration of the other factors and element that goes into it, right? And so you talking about, we in Texas. So in Texas, they take what's called the STAR test, right? And it used to be called TAX. The name has changed, but basically that is a test that is intended to measure, there's essential knowledge and skills that is taught at different levels of benchmarks, right? And then that end of the year test is to measure whether or not what was taught was actually learned, right? And so because of those mandates, you have teachers that are put in position that it becomes a numbers game, right? I have to stay afloat. I have to make sure, and granted, I'm not against, making sure that success is measurable, right? Learning is measured.
Yeah, we need
But
that.
it takes away sometimes that, that even those teachers, they have that willingness to lead with compassion, there's not a lot of room from the mandates, right? So everything becomes test, 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 and what it looks like on paper. So what happens in turn is you have some educators that are, unfortunately, that piece is kind of pushed to the side. That compassion, let's look beyond the fault to see the need, right? Let's look at, Susie or Sally or John or James through the lenses of what's going on, right? How can I best help you? Yes, I do need to teach you to read. I do need to teach you math, science, social studies. However, what are the needs? What are the basic needs first that I need to help meet? Because if I can meet those needs and you can see that I have a genuine interest, a genuine concern in who you are as a person, and then maybe just I may have an opportunity to do what they so-called pay to do, right? But the real, what it should be, my job as an educator should be, I mean, you should be allowed to say, my job is to meet the need of the student, right? And that need goes beyond academic, right? And so if I was, when I get opportunity to speak with younger teachers, or just, I would usually very younger teachers, but in terms of just teachers in general, but especially those that come in gun ho and ready to run and hit the ground running, that burnout is real. That compassion fatigue is real because again, if the mandates coming down is not really reflective of you. My grandmother used to say, "You're trying to get blood out of a turnip, right?" So
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to get something. You want me to extract something from something that's not there. I have to at least build something, some capacity for learning first, right? So you can't expect me to, kind of like you use an example from, I mean, what education means from the Latin word. It means to extract, to draw from, right? So you can't draw from like the old saying, you can't draw from an empty well, right? There's nothing there, so to speak. So what I would say, I mean, to answer your question, I'm here going a long route to say is really to just to teach self-care and what it means to maintain that compassion. Because I think I would venture to say 99.9% of those that even come into education, they're not coming for the money, right? They're coming to make a living, of course, they're going to get paid, but they're not coming because they think that they're going to get rich. Right? So that's all agree with that, first of all.
Right.
Now it's okay, you're here for a reason. How do we not extinguish the flame? Let's see, how do we ignite it? If anything, we want to ignite it.
Right.
Unfortunately, education as we know it, regardless of what state you're in, because of the mandates that's down, it those teachers that come in gun ho and they that compassion fatigue. I won't use the word force, but many educators pivot. They this is not. It's not that it's not for them because they want to help, but all of the other mandates and things going, it don't allow them to do what they thought they was coming to do, and that's to impact lives and to extract, bring out the best in the students that they are coming to serve. So if we can get, there's a way to get education back to the basics in terms of what the root, like that Latin phrase, what it means to extract. But again, that looks different, and it's a lot easier said than done because there's so much that goes on with it, right? Even I think having a political discussion about it, but unfortunately, so much go on, and until we really get serious, I say we get serious as a society, not just as educators, right?
Right.
Because we all are. I mean, as a society, we all have a vested interest. We should anyway have a vested interest in how education is going because it matters. It's going to determine what type of society we're going to have as we move forward, right? And so it's a different discussion to have that.
It definitely different discussion, but maybe not because of course my wheels are turning and I'm thinking, so if Ron Angeletti was the final answer to changing the education system, what would you do?
That's a good question. No one ever give me that magic wand to say fix it. And if I was given an opportunity, if I had the ears of the decision makers, not only the ears but the hearts of the decision makers, while I do know that it's a mass in terms of educating, it's the masses, right? So of course, it's a lot easier said than done. But if I had a magic wand, I would say that special education students get what's called the IEP, Individualized Education Plan.
Mm-hmm.
If I had it my way, every student, right? Now, granted, I mean, it's not a lot easier said than done because you're talking, logistics of paperwork, a lot of that. But we can streamline the paperwork. Every student would have a IEP, right? Not just because they special needs, but every student would, because we learn different, right? In some cases, you may say the majority learn this way, and then those that are not neurotypical may. But the fact of the matter, we all learn differently, right? We all have a different way. The ones we identify with, we talk about those. We talk about auditory versus tactile versus kinesthetic. Those are the ones that we identify. But it goes beyond that, right? Some of us, yes, we may identify with auditory. I'm the type, I can listen to a lecture, right? But I'm probably not going to have a lot of notes because I'm processing here. Where some can really take notes, and I would wonder how was they able to really do that and take those notes, because we learn different. We have different. Some of them need to see it. Some of us, again, because some of us tactile, we need to touch it. Some of us needs to feel it, hear it, see it. But again, that is just an example of how we learn differently, right? But it goes beyond that. So if I had it my way, it would definitely be an opportunity to really, at the early age, not turn to, because unfortunately, like even at what I do, and I spend a lot of time working in alternative schools, which DEAP is a discipline alternative, DAEP, discipline alternative education program. Those are students that was expelled for whatever infraction and go into a different setting for a specified amount of time. And so that's my passion coming, just from where I come from, because those are the students I think really need that up close and personal education. But unfortunately, I brought that up to say I would love an opportunity to make sure that we are not having to kind of go reverse to try to front load or back load. I'm trying to catch up because they missed some of those foundational principles. So the idea would be that in schools at the earliest stages, right, from pre-K, ECI, early child intervention, all the way up. So that way, it's not you don't have that lack of a foundation, so to speak, right? And so I'm speaking from my experience because I don't want to oversimplify it and because not everyone have these issues. I'm saying that's my experience, but I know that accounts for a lot of the issues that happen in school. That when I talk about issues, the behavior issues, statistically say less than 5% of student population create the problem, so to speak, or the behavior issues, right? But it makes so much noise because it's so disruptive. It appears that it's out of control when it's really not. So we can meet those where they are. That's catching up. But to go back to your original question, if I can go back and have that in, then rehabilitate. So, for example, we use the word prisons is meant to rehabilitate, right? Penitentiary is a place for penance, right? So you think about rehabilitate, right? Someone goes to prison, and why these two matters, I'll explain it because I've got education, but I'm telling you why it matters.
No. I trust me. I understand. I understand far more than you'll ever know. I love the IEP idea. Go ahead.
And so we use the term rehabilitate. How do you rehabilitate something that has never been habilitated to begin with, right? A student. So we're looking at it through the lens that we're talking about, prisons or detention. When you're talking juveniles, so that's over there, right? Although we're talking education, they intersect because it's a major issue, right? That's why it is. And again, I don't want to get ahead of myself in talking of school to prison pipeline. A lot of those unaddressed issues in schools ultimately lead to that, and unfortunately, it disproportionately affects certain communities, right? Not even making this a race discussion, but it is what it is. I mean, if I can be transparent. So when we say this magic wand that I speak of, some would say that magic wand is not needed in all sectors of our society, right? Because they have certain things. So although we may have laws and segregation, desegregation, integration, all those things, we may by law have changed what's actually happened, but we didn't really change some people's mindset about what should be and shouldn't be. They just had to go about it a different way. So you suppress an action, you didn't necessarily address the issue.
The
Make sense
issue.
what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And
Right.
I'm tiptoeing because I'm trying to.
Well, don't tiptoe, my brother. Just come on with it.
Again, because I want to be, a respectful of your show, and I don't want to make the discussion controversial in terms of race and the thing, but it is what it is. So if that magic wand, if I had it and we didn't have the issues, but it probably would need to be used in some areas. In some areas, they'll say it's no, what you're saying is not reflective or relative.
Right. I think it would be beneficial though for both. I'm a proponent of IEPs. I have much experience with them in my own life. And so when we begin to talk about something that is individualized, I believe that's when we can get back to the true meaning of to educare, to care for someone as we build them, help them to come to an understanding of who they are, regardless of the situation, the economic status, the education status, the I said economic, but whatever class status.
Economic, so they refer to it as the social economic status, right?
Okay.
And like you said, that not be as a determinant factor as just making sure that it's education equal for all. I mean, opportunities. I'm going to say equal.
Opportunity, right? Opportunity to know who you are. Opportunity to be able to, as you said just earlier, you said you're passionate about helping. I heard in my mind the underdog, and so there are so many other people who are passionate about helping the underdog, and we all have our field. So I'm passionate about helping the underdog. In particular, I have a nonprofit that serves formerly incarcerated female veterans and homeless women. So that's a passion. That's a place where I will most likely not burn out. Yeah, I might get a little tired, but most likely won't burn out because I am that passionate about it. And it took time to understand myself individually.
Yeah.
And I believe that is a key component to being successful in life, is to understand who you are individually. You brought up another topic about how we learn. What I heard in my mind, and I'm sure our viewers and our listeners, everybody is going to hear it where they are. And I believe that's why, it's so key. I'm so glad you brought this up. You don't even understand how excited I am that you brought up the IEP, individual education plan. Parents, if you out there and your kids are struggling right now, I would advise, recommend, encourage that you ask for an individual education plan. And I say that because it helped my family greatly. Because as you said, everybody does not learn the same. I am a visual learner. If you show it to me once, most likely that's all I'm going to need. But a lot of people, as you said, they'll sit there and listen to a lecture. Next thing you know, they got 2-3 pages of notes. It's like, well, who are you listening to? Well, we're in the same room.
That was definitely me. In fact, just a side note. In fact, I'm married to. I met my wife there. We've taken a class together, and I didn't take much notes because I'm listening, and I would. And she had plenty of notes, right? And so she was cute, and so that was an opportunity to talk to her. But I asked her, does she mind if I get a photocopy of her notes? We didn't have cell phones to take a picture, so we had to go to photocopy and make a copy. But anyway, I just say that to say that we in the same group, we both in the same room, but the way that she's retrieving information versus the way I'm, because we are different, right? It's good to have those notes to refer back to, but again, it's taking in consideration that we learn differently, and it's okay. It's okay that we learn differently. So that goes back to that piece, that self-awareness piece.
See, thank you. You just said a whole few more mouthfuls. Awareness. If we are, I wrote I just wrote a book. Matter of fact, not just wrote it. It just came out in October. It's called "Are You Present?" which is truly just about you being self-aware.
Yeah.
Every single moment of your life.
Yeah.
It makes life so much easier because you figured out how you learn. You got the girl. Look, you got some benefits that went along with it. So you got the girl, you got your lifelong, ace. And it's like, wow, because you figured out your process. This is what I hope that a lot of people will take away from this conversation is that we have to figure out our process as far as education goes, and even as an adult, we still should be seeking education. We still should be seeking how to bring forth more of who we are, because we should be growing and we should be evolving and we should be building. And our children in the school systems, we have to make sure that the process is conducive for them, because everybody, guess what, is not a good test taker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody has to have there's a way for people to take tests. I saw you light up a little bit there. You got something to add on? Yeah, go right ahead.
Listen, I lit up that way because it's, and I don't want to get ahead of the interview because
you're not ahead. We talk.
I listen.
Conversation.
And again, it's not even a shameless. I mean, I'm here to talk about myself, but I authored Climb, Lift, Build.
Yes.
If you lift, I don't know if you can see the illustration here. It's illustrated in steps, right? But those are the 5 elements of social emotional learning, right? You have self-awareness, right? Self-management, social awareness, positive decision making. Positive relationships, and then responsible decision making. Those are the 5 elements, and it's not limited to kids. All of us as individuals. Now, the sooner we learn these steps, the sooner we can incorporate them, the better chance we have. But all of us, the title is Climb, Uplift, and Build, which incorporates all of us at different levels, right? Whether you're at the climb phase, to climb up to a place of stability from adversity, that's the climb. But once you climb, the idea is that climb is not just for you, it's so that you can uplift those around you, uplift others, right? And from climbing from adversity to uplifting others, and collectively we build. And that's what it's about. Whether we're talking about building stronger families, stronger individuals first, and families and communities. And that's how we shift the narrative forward. So this book was written not just as a narrative of my own, just a biography, but it's very, very practical steps to take and to use in those 5 elements. And I was smiling because when we were mentioning self-awareness, it all starts with self-awareness. What are we talking about from an academic perspective, of spiritual perspective, knowing who you are, right? Know thyself. That goes back to the title of another book. You knowing yourself, then we can get into self-control, but we can't begin to control something that we don't know, right? And so why this book is instrumental in terms of, we started out talking education, right? And I don't have that magic wand that we mentioned. And we do have, unfortunately, a system that's in place. And I believe a lot of people, educators, have good intentions, right? But we have bureaucracy, we have mandates and things that don't, unfortunately, it's not all the time aligned with what the boots on the ground hope is happening. They still they have a job to do. They have to make sure that they're keeping up with those mandates, and it may appear to be a disregard for those that need it most to get those things. So I wrote this book in a way to coincide with, of course, with what should be happening in schools, but for families, especially our community, just to be totally transparent, to not totally depend on that a school, all right, or a school system is going to instill those things that's needed. In a perfect world, yes, they will. They will understand that, right? But that just for the sake of we're going to err on the side of caution and say, I'm going to take the responsibility as a father, as a mentor, as a coach, whatever it is, whatever capacity that I'm going to instill. I'm going to make sure that my son and daughter, my niece and nephew, those that matter to me, are one, knowing who they are, really, because they can go off to be great students, right? If they understand who they are, they understand what makes them tick, right? Then they can manage themselves, and then they can see how they fit in with the largest, scope of society, social web. Right? Then I can make my relationships based on if I know who I am, I control myself, I can see how I fit in. Then I can pick friendships, right? Or whether it's groups or either whether it's intimacy, I can better choose, a mate, a partner, whatever word we're going to use. And then I can make better decisions in life. So those elements don't change. Whether we talking about a 5-year-old or we talking about a 55-year-old. So if we understand ourselves, we can make, all the way up to making more responsible decisions in life. So that's, and again, not just to totally plug a book. Yes, I did write the book to sell books, but I promise you, I wrote it in hopes of having an impact and taking a lot of my experience and a lot of the things in the book that I'm still working on. It's not that I wrote it because this is what I did. This is what you should do. This was going to make it. No, it's a lot of it is research based. This is effective, and it's proven. Success has clues, right? There's a formula. You interview across all sectors, people that are successful, that are considered to be successful in our society. Whether we talk from athletics to academia, whether it's doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs. You take that interview, you look at it, in some form they have mastered these, and starting with self-awareness, knowing who they are and see how they fit in, right? And so I didn't, again, want to get ahead of and just jump to the book. Let me tell you about my book, not what it is.
You are not ahead of anything. You are perfect. We are here to talk about you, your organization, all that is about you, and the book is certainly I'll say a passionate tool for us to use. And from what it sounds like, it's something that we can use every day. This and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you as well, because I feel like, no, this is not just for the classroom. This is not just for a person in a classroom. This is for somebody's life every day who wants to understand the process that their life has to take. We all have, we all go to the motor vehicle to get our driver's license. Those of us who want to do that. There's a process for that. Did we all learn how to drive the same way? Nope. But we all still had that goal of achieving a driver's license. So we had to go about it different ways. My way probably wasn't the most traditional. And my mother, God rest her soul, she's not here, but she did find out that I was driving to school while taking driver's ed. So my way was not traditional. What actually happened, though, and this happens in life, you probably will agree with me, is that while I was learning it as it was being taught as the correct process to get to my end goal, I had to break some bad habits. I couldn't have one arm up on the steering wheel. I had to have them at, what is it, 9 and what is that? No, 3 and what's
3 and 12. Huh? What is it?
Not 12. 12 is up here.
3 and 9, 3 and 6.
9, yes, you had to have certain places on the wheel, or you were not going to be graded properly. So in life, we learn how to we may have to break some bad habits along the way. Once we figure out the process of who we are, once we get our individual education plan, I'm telling you, You might see that in my next book because you just sparked something in me that um, I think is much needed in society. Not just like I said in school systems. Everybody needs to know who they are. We need to have strong self-awareness. Know
Mm-hmm.
what you're gonna do when stuff go wrong. Know what you're gonna do when things go right. Are you a good sport or a bad sport?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna win and we're gonna lose.
Right, right.
Yep.
That was I mean, I love the analogy of the driver license just because it it spells out how just the different levels, a different way of retrieving, but the ultimate goal is to get to that point, right? And so although you
Mm-hmm.
took a different path, maybe a different way of goes back to those learning styles and different ways of retrieving information. But the goal is to
Mm-hmm.
get the information to allow you as the individual goes back to individualized education. And education is individualized first. And there's not as much of a need for it to continue as you matriculate, but at least coming in, it should be some level of let's see how your needs are met best, right? And I know someone said as an educator, that would seem such a lofty goal because it's saying because you think it through the lens of logistically, how would I do that? It creates some anxiety. If I would tell it to speaking as a teacher, but remember being in the classroom, remember being in schools, different capacities, that would trigger such anxiety to think that I would, in addition to all these things I have to do, you mean you want me to have a IEP? Because if you can have a class with 25 students and two of them in there maybe sped and have an IEP, that in itself is already because of the mandates. So you're talking to a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, boots on the ground, and you say that it would almost certain trigger some level of anxiety because they're thinking logistically, how can I possibly do that? That's why I go back in the perfect world, we would introduce that to the point, and it won't even be as convoluted with what's going on today because we'll have a whole different system, right?
Right.
But again, that goes back to assuming everyone that's calling shots and make a decision have the best interest, right?
Right.
If that's the case, but I mean, I've been around long enough with my own experiences and just by whether it's vicarious through other situations, I know that unfortunately everyone that's making decisions on behalf of those that's going to, I don't want to use the word benefit from it, but it's going to have a effect on those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, not
Mm-hmm.
everyone is making that decision with
Mm-hmm.
the best interest of everyone in mind. So that's
Right.
why it's so important. And I just, of course, my book, I wrote it from my heart, but that's why it's so important as families, we get a hold to, you know, information to make sure that we are, if the school is teaching and is reinforcing, great, it's a win. But just so happen if the school is not, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to leave it to chance that my kid, my son, my daughter, again, I don't want to limit to just your own, right? Those that you say you love, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's do our part to make sure that they are getting the information that's needed. One of the questions I get from this book, just looking at the cover, assume it's a children book, okay, but it's really not. But it's for children, but it is not limited to children. We all need to really grasp these elements, right? To build, to literally build stronger, families and stronger communities, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how we can shift the narrative forward, shift us in the right direction, right? So there's some, unfortunately, there's some deconstruction that needs to take place or some demolition so that we can remove the barriers that got us here. And that starts with, with, again, much knowledge come much sorrow. You would, in trying to sell a book, right? And I'm not, I mean, of course, I wrote a book to sell a book, but I'm more interested in that impact. And I keep saying that because a $23 book, right? A $20 book, the saying we say, well, the affordability is not that because we are buying, and not to be insensitive, we'll go out the way to get 90. I'm talking about for elementary students,
Right.
we'll give up money
iPhone, tennis shoes,
for
yeah,
all of those things to
games.
find a way to get those things. And I'm not trying to even be insensitive or trying to be condescending to no one, but our priorities, I'm not say our because it's like you almost have to. I have to almost give this away. I mean, I just got started. The book just released 2 weeks ago, so I'm not being pessimistic about it. But I mean, in a perfect world, I mean, if I had it that way, I would give it to every family if they were promised to read it, right? Or I'll give it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't benefit from it, I'll reimburse you the money back, right? And so to
Right.
have to take those drastic measures to try to get people when really we should have such a thirst for gaining whatever it is, not just this book, but books like this and getting information. But the old saying is, if you want to hide something from a certain group of people, then you put it in the book, which I don't subscribe to. I don't think that's for everyone, but unfortunately, it appears that way at times.
Let me tell. Hopefully, the viewers and listeners will appreciate this little story here. A prominent celebrity told this story about his life, and he was just starting out and couldn't pay his rent and was trying to figure out what the heck he was going to do, right? So he kept calling his mother, and his mother kept saying, well, son, did you read this book? Did you read this book? And he's like, and it just happened to be the Bible. But she kept asking him every phone conversation they had for about 3 months. Mm-hmm. He was struggling. She said, well, did you read the book, son? And finally, he opened the book. And guess what was in the book?
The money,
rent money.
It's funny you said that because I'm talking less than a week ago, I just was listening to, and when he was telling that story, it was profound. Mom was saying, go back and read in the book, and all the while, what he needed was actually in the book. And so that whole, when I heard that, it really uplifted me in a way, but it was very relevant to, the thing that we need is there. It's right there. Also meet that other need that you have, right? So
yep, it's right there in the book. If we, I write books. My last one I was talking about, that's my 5th one. And, I give it away a lot though. I do give the book away a lot. Don't everybody write me at one time to say, give away the book. No, but if you put in the chat, I want the book, I will send it to the first 10 people. I will do that. But speaking of your book, before we take a very short break, because we're almost at the end, tell us how we can get your book.
Okay, so the book is available on, you can get it at Amazon. Well, I have a website, so if you can go to the website to learn more about the book first, it's Ron Angeletti Books. I mean, you can put that in, but it's my first and last name, books with an S, BOOKS.com. And so that website is designated just to give insight to the book. You put it up? I need to put it up?
Yep. No. You can see it on the top of the screen. You can see it on the top of the screen. We will put the website right there for everybody to be able to. Let's make his website crash, because so many people on there wanting to buy the book.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So from the website to get the insight, but then there's get your copy, and that link will take you direct to Amazon site. It'll take you there to order the book directly, or you can go to Amazon and search the book and find it. But there's some information. But the website would give you just a lot of insight on who I am, as an author, as an educator, to give that insight, and then to talk more about the book. But the book is a very easy read. But again, it's not limited to kids, but it is. But I also, because by demand, because having these discussions, I also have 2 workbooks coming out, one at elementary level and one at middle school level. And it coincides directly with the book, the same topics of content, but it's actually workbooks with hands-on activities to engage those 2 levels, that elementary level, as well as the other one is for the middle school level. So that way the book would work great in tandem with, let's say if you had it at home as a parent, or as and you have some others that, I want to use the word just your kids, but you had a group where you was a coach, you was a mentor, and in some capacity, having this would be more like let's say the teacher guide, so to speak, or the manual, and then that workbook. So therefore, you're talking about having family discussion, a group discussion with this coach and players, to have those focused discussions. For example, I just randomly opened up, and one of the subtopics is playing the blame game, right? Always be there, give time. It's chunked into, I don't know, the light is allowing you to see it. So it's an easy read chunked into it. So that way, when you're having those discussions, you're having more focused discussions. You're not just saying, do good, use your time wisely. You're giving very practical, discussion, a focused discussion. And if
Right.
you're having it as a general discussion, you can come back and see how you're doing in terms of defining your goal. Have you defined your goal?
Mm-hmm.
Have you broke your goal down into smaller steps? Are you
Mm-hmm.
multitasking? Or how you're doing with it's very specific. You can have those discussions. Now you can measure, where they are in these particular areas as it pertains to those five elements, from social of self-awareness up to responsible decision making. So having a book like this would be great family time. You can
Mm-hmm.
incorporate that into whether some families like to do fellowship and Bible study. This book is I didn't put like I explained I didn't specifically put scriptures in the book, but these
Mm-hmm.
elements are directly associated with biblical principles. And the only reason I didn't, because I don't want to get boxed out of schools to use it as curriculum. I don't want to have to be a barrier in which promoting religion, so to speak, right? But I am,
Right.
just to be totally transparent, I am a believer, so my values that I wrote this book are definitely biblical principles. It's not to the point where it's imposition is imposing my religious views on anyone. But these are,
Right.
again, science is just catching up, right? So we got best practices in schools where it talks about social intelligence, emotional intelligence, which
Mm-hmm.
is very new in terms of the Bible. The Bible, this is, again, science is catching up. Research and academia is catching up with the Bible been saying all along. So I
Right.
explain that for those. These are definitely biblical principles, but it's not an imposition to the point where it's imposing my religious views on anyone. These are whether consider yourself Christian, Muslim, Hindu, or whatever it is. It don't infringe on anyone's religious beliefs, right? However,
Right.
it
So
should
you,
be enforced. If that
what
makes sense.
you're saying is you have written your book from a diverse standpoint.
Yes, I
It is
did.
diverse across the board. Everybody can receive something from it. You don't have to practice a specific religion. We just have to practice being better human beings.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very, very, very well said. And me saying it that way because again, and not even being ambiguous, I am a believer
Hmm.
in Jesus Christ is Lord, to me, and I would share that with anyone. So I'm not even saying to be ambiguous, like what do I believe? No, that's what I believe.
Right,
But I wrote
exactly.
the book again to be diverse because I don't want any barriers to say we can't. I want this book and my view and my hopes is that it would be in every classroom, in every football
Right,
coach would have a copy to make sure
right,
not only you're teaching those athletic skills, but also making sure that those young men and women are growing to be productive citizens as well, so that they can,
right.
their athletic ability they can take them to college or to the next level, to NFL or to the NBA. But what's going to keep them there, right? What's going to, remember, character counts. So again, I don't want to be long-winded and like I'm so pushing, but I am pushing, but I'm really pushing the
Well,
principle more than I am pushing the book itself.
right. Well, I think that, from the book, um, people will receive, how can I say, this left my mind, it's points, reference points for life
Mhm,
on, oh, well, maybe if I do it this way, let me try this process
mhm,
and see how far I get. I always say, because I have created many training modules myself, and I didn't do it with specific, say, job skill.
mhm,
I made my training modules so that my, at the time and now, actually, they're not going to be my employees, but I'm writing for the second largest federal government agency in the country, on diversity, actually, for our behavior, on how we are to conduct ourselves, how you become a person who is better behaved. I'll put it that way.
mhm.
And I think that your book will help us to become better human beings. And I'll always say, even I don't care what job it is, where you are, who you are, if we become better human beings,
Mm-hmm.
we become better employees, we become better students, we become better spouses, we become, you know, better all around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe that we it's needed everywhere, not just like you said, it's not just for the classroom, it's not just for the young student, it's for the adult as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's for all of us who want to uplift and build.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I believe, is a statement for our lives for every day. I believe that God breathes in us every day. And when God breathed the breath of life into each and every one of us, and we opened our eyes, no, it wasn't your alarm clock, no, it wasn't the crash or bang or the spouse moving on the other side of the bed. Nope, wasn't none of that.
Mm-hmm.
It was God Almighty saying it's time for you to get up.
Unequivocally. Make no mistakes about it. Yeah.
Right. And so when that happened, there was a thing needed in the earth for this day, our daily bread, that we were to bring. And we'll bring it when we understand who we are, why we are, and where we are. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that your book it will help all of us to do that. And I
Thank
pray
you.
that, like I said, I pray that your book hits number one on many platforms, that it goes into the schools unhindered,
Yes. Yes.
gets into all the right hands. I'm so thankful and grateful for you being here with us on the show. Tell us one more time your website, which we'll be able to see it right up here, and the name of the book, and any other social medias you want us to find you on.
Okay. And so the book's website is my first and last name, Ron Angeletti Books.com. You can learn more about the book there. And there's also a link there that will take you directly to Amazon where you can purchase the book. And my consulting website is Teach Another, TEACHAN ANOTHER, another Inc. INC.com. So Teach Another Inc. is a website that's designated just to learn more about my efforts as a educational consultant and behavior support services. And you can contact me on either one of those, or you can email me at I'm so sorry, I went blank on my emails. It's one is Teach Another Inc. at gmail.com, and my direct personal email is Ron Angeletti at yahoo.com. And from the websites, both of them have for the book. There's a website, so there's a tab for website. I don't remember exactly. I think it's Ron Angeletti Books. Ron at Ron Angeletti Books. But from the website, if you can get to the website, Ron Angeletti Books.com, there's a tab that'll take you to email. So any questions about the book, any questions or any opportunity for speaking engagement or for consulting, or maybe if you just have a question, we mentioned earlier on about you may have a student, someone that you care for, and you're interested in getting them assessed, whether it be for 504, which is a federal program, or special education. If you just need some assistance, just how to approach the school. And that's not, even though I'm saying consultant, so that's not for a fee. That don't worry. If you just have a question, you want to get more insight on how do I approach the school to request that testing. I mean, I would freely, in fact, it'd be my pleasure to give you some insight, some guidance on how to request that the school test them or evaluate for services. So both of those are federal programs you have. It wasn't air quotes, I'm sorry. Both of them are federal programs. One is special education, right? It's fall under IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act, and the 504 is 504 is Section 504 of a Civil Rights Act, right? So both of those are federal programs. Special education ends at high school, basically by age 20. It goes through age 21, and they would graduate. Basically, use the word graduate. Those services ends at the duration of high school. With 504, you can have a 504 plan for life. Basically, it's a civil rights. So Section 504 it referred to as 504, but it's really Section 504 of the Civil Rights Act, right? And so,
All right.
yeah, I don't want to overwhelm and just a lot of that. Any
Yeah.
questions? Reach out to me. If they reach out to you, feel you can forward it to me or call me or anything I can do to help. But that's absolutely my passion to ensure that those students that are in need of getting those specific services have access to it.
All right. And we are grateful for that. Before we go, I have to say happy Veterans Day, which was on Wednesday. Excuse me, not Wednesday. It was on Monday, but we're going to celebrate Veterans Day all week, all month, the month of November. So I thank all of you who have served. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners. I will never take you for granted. I thank God that you are all here, and I pray that you always receive something that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. Always be awesome.